Rena Computer Geek here. We are going to be breaking down the ability scooter down to frame.
Move! Alright, the seat's the easy part on these. If you fold these up so that you can get your hand in here and lock in, this slides all the way and then you lift. Alright, so John's going to get this side, I'll get this side. We'll disconnect the batteries. We're going to be saving these in order to be able to hook up the harness later. What are you doing?
Trying to tug on it.
Make it go. There you go. So that goes like that. It goes like that. And here we go. Oh. This is actually a 600-pound rated linear actuator. And this piece here actually unbolts and comes off of here. You can see the inlet down there. So we've got a couple of ideas for these that we've been bouncing around. I've got a mate to this one that's the same exact unit. And we're discussing a few different ideas now. So to remove the steering column, John's going to disconnect here, which is just a little push in and pull clip. And then from here, if you lift this up and give it a yank, that disconnects. We're going to be saving this. We're not sure how much of this we're going to actually decide to utilize, but at the very least, we'd like to go and have the fuel charge gauge as part of the setup. Well, I thought these were going to be one entire unit, but, well, that was great. But if you take the screws out, it turns out they're just an encompassed area here, and that these actually pull out and are just white lights. So we're going to set these aside, even though they're not the right size to use on the F-150, but you never know. Maybe we'll do something with this lighting. I'm thinking headlights might be a good idea. Here in the piece off the top, well, those are apparently stripped out. Yep, that's stripped out too. Alright, so let's see what the top of this looks like under here. There we go. So, this right here is the electrical cord that goes to the charger. So the question is, so here's the charger, and it's, oh yeah, it's got a wire live right there that's chewed through, so we need to fix that. But let's see if this charger is actually independent and goes to the batteries, or whether it cycles through it somewhere. Yeah, lovely mouse nest. So that goes right there. That continues over to here. Goes into this big giant rat's nest of cabling here, over to here. And then proceeds into this controller right here. So I think what we're going to do is pull this out. And what's interesting is it's an independent charger. It's literally got a charge and power light right there. So we're going to pull this out. We're going to throw it on a bench, making sure not to go and touch that. And see if this will just put out 24 volts worth of charge. And go from there. Fuzz, I'm trying to shoot a how-to video. Could you please move? Move. I can't shoot electrical how-to with your head there, and I only have one hand. Thank you. Alright, so we hooked up those batteries because I had a theory, and we put this back on because there's a lot more wire here than what there really ought to be for just a simple connected up charging system. So right now, with that toggled into the drive position, we have 22.9 volts. But if we have John put it in the off position, and we come down here and we watch, you'll see all of a sudden out of nowhere, oh, see how that changed? That's because it's currently trying to top off the batteries. That's why it keeps flickering on 223. So if we have John turn it back on, and we're back to not flickering anymore. So there's some sort of safety circuit here that's going on with all this wiring where this charger, the LED lights are actually disabled apparently inside the charger, which is an interesting little trick. And it does not actually initialize the charger until that switch, go ahead, is in the off position. Alright, so I was trying to figure out why this was Velcroed down instead of solid mounted, and I think it has to do with having to push on these with a screwdriver and then tug on them. Nope. On the top piece. Right there, I believe. Maybe not. Yep, so if you get it pushed down on the top and then give a little tug with the screwdriver, that's how you get these plugs out. Which explains why it is that you have to go and have the Velcro bottom to service this. There. 70 amp seat lift. Interesting. So they must have certain ones that are wired differently for different things. What's also interesting is this bottom looks as if it's almost removable. Today's episode of The Fastest Way to Lose Your Thumb. It is. So that's able to be removed and checked. I don't see any... Oh, no, there's corrosion right in there. There's a bunch of corrosion there. There's a bunch of corrosion right there, which could have messed it up. And, yep, there's a bunch of corrosion across all the leads in that area. So, that may or may not have been what finally was the demise of this poor thing.
Someone also left the tag thing where people scan it.
Well, we're all bad people. We voided a warranty. You saw it here, folks. We're bad.
There's warranty.
So, John's going to remove what should be 6, but one's already missing. Apparently there was another clip in underneath that I had to go and pull, which went to this, which looks like the same exact plug that's going into the steering column. So from here, we'll remove everything else that we can. Oh, so much for that idea. There's a nut apparently on the other end. That might be rated for 600 pounds, but the 4 bolts that were holding it in were really low grade. And yeah, they were just rusted to snot on the other end. The threads weren't coming off or anything, so we zinged them off. And it dropped through the bottom here, so if I pick up... there we go. That thing's pretty heavy, huh? I'm sure we can come up with something to do with that. So here's the top on it, in case you're curious. So that right there goes on here. And there's a screw hole right there that lines up. So there we go. I'm sure we can come up with something interesting to do with one of these. These are 24 volt compatible. And I have a second one of these that I tested, And you can run these off of a lithium drill battery. So we've got a few different ideas in the works we're thinking about here. With this flipped up on its back, it's a lot easier to figure out how this comes apart. So we've got the wiring harness that comes down through here and goes to this controller that was going to all the electrical junk in the back end. And what's interesting is this is not actually tied to the metal frame. It's actually got a pin going through here and a pin going through here that we need to pull. Now there does seem to be something going on there, so I don't know whether that's plastic going into the metal frame or what. But when we come up here, these look to just be Velcroed right here. And they look to have a couple of push-through tabs right in here that we're going to pop off. And this wiring harness here goes up through, and what's interesting to note is they've got an extra foot or so worth of play wire here. So if you were trying to extend this and leave the mobility scooter controls, that's good to know. So we're going to get that off, get the wiring harness out, and then see if we can break off the rear. Alright, so John's butt is being poked with a square plastic piece right now, so he's not exactly comfortable. But if he tries to turn it now, with that all the way back, he can turn it. Yep, now the other way. So I think this is where we're going to stop at this point. John, you can get up and stop square butting yourself. So for the next step of this, just to prove the concept, I think what we're going to do, here's our steering that we uncovered down here, which is your standard go-kartish type steering, except for this is on the opposite side of what most go-karts usually are. So I'm kind of debating what to do here. There's a lot of discussion about the idea of maybe a small rack and pinion setup or something like that, because really, in all honesty, the right way to do what I need to do next would be to slice this whole thing squarely, perfectly in half and widen it out so that it fits wheel well to wheel well where it is we need it. So I'm thinking at this point, what we do is we keep the original battery trays where they were, and we set up the batteries. We take this and we slice out all of the plasticky goodness of it so that we can bolt a tractor seat or something right here over the top of the motor. And we wire it in with a 24-volt ESC kit and temporarily mount a gas pedal right about here. This is solid and definitely can drill to it. So there's no reason I can't put a electric pedal right in here. And the other thing that we need to go and plan on / figure out is I need to extend this frame at least a good solid 6, maybe 8 inches to fit in the Ford Power Wheels chassis. And that means that this assembly here needs to transpire into either a metal equivalency or something. I haven't quite decided what to do with this, because this mounting area here is entirely plastic. It's not metal. And, well, let's just say John drives like I do with the mud mower. Don't you? So that's not going to survive redneckery, I don't expect. The other thing is we got to figure out a way to widen the wheelbase, which we've done in other builds with these mobility scooter rear ends. If you look at the video that I have of the John Deere Gator, that one has been extended on the axle shafts and everything. And that's a good video to go take a look at. So we'll see.
Try this Ford Raptor. Save for the end of the video. Have a good day. Bye.
Alright, so before we tear it apart, I wanted to show you that you only need one set of wires for this. You need your red and your black wire set in order to do your mobility scooter rear end on these. And I'll show you why here. So if John touches the two contacts, the blue and the red together, that should trigger 24 volts to the rear because it's going full throttle. So if I have this here in the center, then I've got voltage coming to here. If I switch it to here, I've got negative voltage for reverse. And if I switch it to fully forward, like so, I end up with that, which does us no good. And reverse. There we go. Alright, so now we've got the body torn down to nothing but essentials. We can start working on the idea of tearing the mobility scooter down to just the frame.